Times. Collins became paid secretary of the National Aid Association, which gave financial help and found them jobs. But it also gave him an opportunity to quietly begin reorganizing the Irish Volunteers and to re-establish the Irish Republican Brotherhood. Within a year, he had become a member of the Supreme Council of the Brotherhood. Collins was determined that the wave of sympathy which had swept the country after the execution of the leaders of the Rising would not be allowed to. Among the others who gave support was Arthur Griffith, founder and leader of the old Sinn Féin organisation. Griffith, editor of a Republican newspaper, had been a great influence on the young Michael Collins. And Michael Collins was appointed director of organisation. So what kind of young man was Collins? He used symbolically the block on which the patriot Robert Emmet had been beheaded a century before. Relatives of those executed in 1916 were the first to buy loan bonds, queuing for this propaganda film, which would be shown in towns throughout the country. When the loan closed, £379,000 had been raised. Gold and...
In my opinion, it gives us freedom. Not the ultimate freedom that all nations desire and develop to, but the freedom to achieve it.
The Dáil, now meeting in Earlsfort Terrace, began a long series of fiery treaty debates. After one session, Collins wrote to Kitty Kiernan,
"This is the worst day I've had yet. Far, far the worst. May God help us all."
But increasing numbers put their support behind Collins and Griffith. At last, on the 7th of January 1922, the Dáil approved the action of the Irish delegates in signing the treaty. The voting was 64 votes to 57. A provisional government was elected with Collins as chairman. De Valera resigned his presidency. Arthur Griffith was elected to the office. The evacuation by British forces began almost immediately. Significantly, the first fortifications to be dismantled were those outside Dublin Castle. The auxiliaries and the Black and Tans were demobbed and left quickly, seemingly as pleased to be leaving as the Irish were to see them go. The departure of the vast British military machine during the following months was, to most people, the outward sign that Ireland had achieved, after 7 centuries, at least some semblance of independence. Only a small force of troops would remain to see the transfer of power. To Michael Collins, however, the real sign was the evacuation of Dublin Castle by the civilian administration, which he had partly crippled in the Custom House fire, and the remains of its intelligence network blinded by him on Bloody Sunday. On the day of the takeover of Dublin Castle, Collins arrived some minutes late, short-lived. On the following day, President Griffith, exhausted and broken-hearted, suffered a massive stroke. Collins helped carry the coffin of his old friend from the Pro Cathedral in Dublin. 300,000 people lined the funeral route to Glasnevin Cemetery. Dublin was in mourning for a man who had struggled all his life to wrench Ireland free from foreign rule, and yet lived only long enough to see his best efforts turn his fellow countrymen upon each other. Michael Collins would survive Arthur Griffith by only 10 days. Suffering from a heavy cold and a kidney infection, Collins had to stop frequently on the journey. The strain of his illness and his mental burden can be seen in this snapshot taken at the time. He was edgy too. Watching his men remove a bridge obstruction near Kilmallock, he didn't notice the approach of the amateur photographer who took this picture. The click of the shutter made Collins snatch for his revolver. After inspecting the Free State garrison at Newcastle West, he travelled southeastwards to Mallow in County Cork for more talks, and then that evening to the Imperial Hotel in Cork City, where Emmett Dalton had set up his headquarters.
I was concerned to see him there, because I knew how
On the following day, Collins travelled some 30 miles with Dalton to Macroom, where he had secret talks with an influential neutral IRA officer. That afternoon, he made the last entry in his personal diary.
The people here want no compromise with the irregulars. It would be a big thing to get civic guards both here and in Limerick. Civil administration urgent everywhere in the south. The people are splendid.
Everywhere Collins went, he was surrounded by well-wishers. But, like Emmett Dalton, Kitty Kiernan at home in Longford was concerned about his safety. In his country, a country stunned into almost disbelief. Collins was taken by ship to Dublin and laid out first in the old St. Vincent's Hospital. Among those who visited the mortuary was Lady Hazel Lavery. When the body was taken to City Hall for the official lying in state, tens of thousands queued to pay their respects, including British soldiers who less than a year previously had searched the country for this man. The anguish of most of the nation is captured in this photograph of Collins's eldest brother, Sean. One floral tribute was permitted on Michael Collins's coffin, a single white peace lily. It was from Kitty Kiernan.
My very own Micheál, I was terrified that you'd take all kinds of risks, and how I wished to be near you so that I could put my arms tightly round your neck and that nothing could happen to you. I wouldn't be a bit afraid when I'd be beside you. And if you were killed, I'd be dying with you, and that would be great, and far better than if I were left alone behind. I'd be very much alone if you were gone. Nothing could change that. And all last week and this, I've realized it, and that's what makes it so hard.
Michael Collins, soldier, guerrilla fighter, politician, diplomat, economist. Hard and cruel, yet capable of the tenderest love. A man who admired not only the tenacity of comrades, but the bravery of enemies. A man who cast a shadow, but was aware of another.
What have I got for Ireland? Something she has wanted these past 700 years. Will anyone be satisfied at the bargain? Will anyone? I tell you this, I signed my death warrant. I thought at the time how odd, how ridiculous. A bullet may just as well have done the job 5 years ago. These signatures are the first real step for Ireland. If people will only remember that, the first real step.